Good morning, everybody. This is Steve from the Worley Bugger. It is the 18th of September. I'm here in the lower farmlands of the river, standing on one of the Reinhardt dikes. Calm and peaceful out here today, for sure. So it's been a couple of weeks since we did a report. It's an extremely busy time for us. September and October, first parts of November. Very busy as the river drops and goes into flip-flop mode. Very, very popular time. However, we're in very unprecedented times here. What we're seeing on the river, looking back over my career of 30 years, I can't remember when we've been in this predicament. It's just been the last couple of years with the changes in weather patterns. Very, very mild winter this past winter. And we just never filled our reservoirs to capacity. Major drought year, and now we're feeling the effects of it. We're seeing very low water conditions in the river and warm water coming out of the reservoirs, making the river extremely warm, in some cases in the high 60s, even hitting 70 degrees in places in September. Unheard of. What's driving all this is the warm air conditions that we're having. Started around Labor Day weekend with temperatures in the high 90s, 100 degrees, and it really hasn't cooled off much since then. Of course, we're not having triple-digit heat, but we are having daytime highs in the mid 80 range. So. And the nighttime lows are only dropping into the 60s. So that's keeping water temperatures higher than normal. Today, taking a reading this morning at 8:30, 61.3 degrees. So they say ideal trout temperature is 55 degrees. So in the mornings we're still running slightly higher than normal, and then definitely during the afternoons as it warms up, it gets in that 80-degree range. Trout are hunkering down. The fishing's going to be very, very tough. It's going to be very, very difficult until we see some lower air temperatures, especially nighttime temperatures. The water that's coming out of the reservoirs is warm, and they've been saying for the last couple of weeks now that the water in the Clay Elm Reservoir is so low. It's reading 4%, but it's been reading that for a long time, a couple of weeks now. But the reservoir is so low, they're actually pumping the water out of it because the puddle has gotten too far away from the base of the dam and can't drain out, so they're actually pumping the water out into the river. So we need a serious winter come November, December, January. We need some major snowpack this year, so everybody pray for that and hope that we get it so it replenishes the system. So if you are planning some fishing, the next couple of days, get on the river early. We're moving towards that daylight savings time. So it's not getting light until, between 6:30 and 7 now, but get on the river early when it's still cool to find the best trout fishing for sure. 61 degrees. They'll still be active. The main thing is protection of the fishery. curb the photo taking of fish, you know, handling procedures, you know, keep them in the net, release them. Remember, this is a barbless fishery, so just unhook them in the water, make sure they're well revived, don't overplay them. Leave your lightweight rods at home, you know, until the water temperatures come down. There goes the stonefly. Leave your lightweight rods at home, you know, don't overplay the fish, you know, get them in quickly, and make sure they're fully revived before you release them. That's just a recommendation. I'm not telling you what to do. Everybody does their own thing, so. But as guide services, we're held to a higher standard, and you know, that's our procedure. That's what we do. You know, so we're starting early in the morning. So if you have trips with us, expect, you know, until it cools down. You know, it's gonna take several days too for the water. It's not gonna be, you know, one night. Sunday's supposed to cool off into the 70s and be, you know, in the 40s at night, but it's gonna take a few of these consecutive nights to bring the water temperatures down in the river and the water that's left in the reservoirs. I mean, they're just puddles. You know, everybody sees them when you drive, you know, by I-90. That's Ketchulus Reservoir. That's the smallest reservoir of them all. So we're gonna need those cold nights to bring the water temperatures down, and you know, we'll get that. You know, it'll come, but you know, for right now, this is what we're dealing with in the river. So, and everybody kind of asks about hopper fishing. You know, is it still going on? It's, you know, in places it will still be happening where you get, you know, this is not really an ideal hopper bank, but imagine if this was full of vegetation and the water was running along the edge of the vegetation, then yes, you could throw a hopper pattern in there and they definitely would respond to it if it's fished appropriately. But the river is so low now that it's, you know, that it's moved away from a lot of the hopper habitat, away from the banks, the grassy banks. So the fish are more concentrated on stoneflies, short-winged stones. Just saw one here flying, and crane flies. Those are kind of your two main aquatic insects. And then of course, you know, there's a lot of mayflies moving. Oh, there's a trout just rose right there. A lot of mayflies that are going to start hatching too. So blueing olives, that's their hors d'oeuvre. They just love eating bluing olives. So whether the nymphs or the dry flies. So that's, you know, that's our upcoming October hatch. Of course, everybody gets excited about October caddis. You know, it's a great big orange bug. Super fun, absolutely. The fish eat lots of them, eat lots of the pupa. You know, so swinging a pupa, you know, in the morning, in the afternoons, you know, will be productive, you know, fishing an October caddis, you know, in specific places in the river will be a lot of fun in October. So that's kind of what we got on the horizon coming up. Oh, there's another trout just rose right there. Nice. Great to see. See them active and feeding. That means that they're doing okay. Give them a lot of credit. You know, they're God's creatures, man. This is their domain. You know, they know what they're doing. They're not just gonna roll over and die. It's built into them. You know, God built that into all of us. Survival mode. So, you know, they're gonna find the cool water during the day, and that's where they're gonna go, and they're gonna feed at specific times. So just keep in mind and hope that we get cooler temperatures. It makes for nice days, but you know, I mean, beautiful out here on the river, but you know, don't expect that you're gonna have, you know, fantastic fishing during the afternoon when it gets in the 80s. There is some good news about the river, about the lower river, you know, down in our bass fishery. The tribe and Fish and Game finally addressing the stargrass.
A major effort is underway to restore parts of the Yakima River aimed at saving salmon and improving water quality. Crews are now removing a fast-spreading aquatic plant that's choking the river and threatening wildlife. Take a look.
Water stargrass is affecting a number of uses of the river, whether it's recreational uses, people wanting to kayak or paddleboard. It's affecting fish, it's affecting the irrigation district's ability to deliver water. They have had to put a lot more effort into making sure their intakes are cleaned off.
A native species, water stargrass, exploded in recent years due to drought and low river flows, creating dense mats that block fish passage, restrict irrigation, and degrade water quality.
It has removed the ability for a lot of fish to be able to spawn successfully in the lower river. It creates water quality issues with temperature, dissolved oxygen, a number of other things. We anticipate that a lot of the historical spawning areas that are now impacted by water stargrass are no longer being used, or at least we're unable to verify anything because it's impossible to see the river bottom there.
To restore critical spawning grounds, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, Yakima Nation Fisheries, and their partners have launched a pilot removal project between Prosser and Benton City. As salmon shift away from their historic habitats, crews are now taking a new approach.
In our case, we're going to try using an aquatic spider excavator that'll actually get into the river with a rake attachment and physically remove the water stargrass from nearshore areas and places that we hope will be more accessible than with some of these other techniques.
All while minimizing harm to habitat.
We're going to assess those afterwards to see if this was successful, looking at things like whether there is better water flow in some of the areas, whether the visual reduction of weeds is there, and then we're going to come back and look at whether salmon were able to successfully construct redds in areas where they historically had but haven't been able to in many years.
The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife says water stargrass will remain a long-term challenge, and finding lasting solutions could take years.
In terms of our hydrograph for the Yakima River, we know that flow is a big contributor, and we want to see some higher flows that help reset those sediments at the bottom of the river, get some of those root balls out of the way. It's uncertain when we're going to see that because it's the third year of drought and we're at the mercy of nature to see when we're going to have a good enough water supply to really cut the river loose.
Grass issue down there, it's shortened our bass fishing tremendously. When I started fishing down there well over 20 years ago, the stargrass wasn't near as bad, but now it's so thick and it grows up so quickly when that portion of the river gets dewatered that it really becomes intolerable and really hard to fish. So now they're down there actually raking the river with machines and addressing the stargrass issue. Hopefully they'll have some success with that. It's, for fall Chinook that spawn down there, it's not for smallmouth bass, there's an absolute hatred of smallmouth bass by fish and game biologists for sure. A non-native species, so of course they got a target on them. Columbia River, a waste. Waste of game fish and food fish. But let me remind you, nowhere I know in the world is there multi-million-dollar tournaments for trout. But all over the country, every weekend they hold million-dollar purse tournaments for bass fishing. So, people love bass fishing, and I'm right in there, no exception. So if you have any questions, as always, feel free to stop by the Pro Shop. We'll help you out. Give us a call if you don't understand what's going on. Happy to help you out with whatever you need. Hope everybody's having a great September, and we'll see you next time.